So in France, my why became outside the sport. So my why used to be because I wanted to be the best in volleyball. I wanted to go to Olympics. I wanted to do all these awesome things. And then I slowly started pulling away from that throughout my professional career. And my why started to change, but I never really made that connection that it was changing. So I was still fighting to feel like that, but I wasn't in the mind space to actually get there. So I had to reevaluate what my why was, what my purpose was, and then that directed me down this new path of, well, I want to be happy right now is the first thing.
Sure.
I want to have more joy in my life. I don't want to be as stressed. I want to enjoy my relationship with my wife more. I want all these other things became more important. Hey everyone, it's Nick Bianco here. I'm a retired volleyball athlete, and you're watching Undress the Jersey.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of UndressTheJersey. It's been a little while since I recorded my last one, but today we're joined by Nick Bianco, who I found. Let me try to remember how I found you. This is interesting because you're the first athlete who I've done my, the little short story or the written story, and then also had you featured on the podcast, which is nice because I'll give you a little bit of context, and anyone who's listening who may just be joining us for the first time is UndressTheJersey started as, I don't know if you're familiar with the account Humans of New York, which I'm pretty sure it's still big. It's huge. They have millions of followers and stuff. But what it is an Instagram account. Someone goes out there, it's almost like a photography page, but they'll walk the streets of New York City and snap photos of people sitting on a park bench or at the hot dog stand. And then they'll give a blurb of like, this person, my family immigrated from Ukraine, like little short stories of just these random people. And I was following them for a little while. And then in my second year, I was like, damn, like I'm an athlete with a pretty interesting story and how, I play basketball and this and that. I was like, I can't be the only athlete that has a story. So let me start asking my friends. So it only started with the short little Instagram thing. But, as you've probably noticed as well, the explosion of podcasts, it totally made sense for me to hop on with athletes too and get a conversation. It allows for deeper convos. So thanks for joining us, Nick. How about you just introduce yourself a little bit and give us start this thing off?
Cool. So yeah, I just retired 3 years ago from playing professional volleyball. I played 4 seasons professionally throughout Europe and then 1 season in India. And then before that, I represented the Canadian national team on the indoor and beach volleyball scene. And before that, I was in university at Trinity Western University, played 5 years there. And we were able to win 2 U Sport or CIS championships and then came second 1 year. And I finished off my 5th year with the Player of the Year award for CIS.
Nice one. That's huge. Like your resume seems to be stacked. Like you got almost everything that you could have asked for out of sports, and the minimal research that I've done on you is it looks like you've taken your experience as an athlete and started your own business. Is it full time? Is it part-time, side hustle? What are you doing?
Yeah. So as soon as I retired, my business partner and I, we started this Athlete Wellness Academy, and it is now turning into my full time. Ever since actually COVID hit, my other job as a personal trainer, gyms were closed. So I had to find other things to do. So now I'm directing 90% of my focus into this company and really trying to help athletes with their performance, but from other perspectives that they might not have linked to their performance as closely before.
Which seemed like probably the biggest theme, at least that I took from the story that we featured you, was the whole focusing on the 20 hours outside of the sport. And it's so weird. Before you sent me your story, I was having a conversation with one of my good friends who, he was my roommate at X. And literally, like, I think I was bouncing the ideas off of him of, well, first of all, he's now getting into the mental wellness space and wants to help other people clear that up. And I brought up the point of how funny it is how much as athletes, our focus, like almost 100% of our focus goes into our sport. But when you really think about it, we're spending a lot more time outside of our sport than we are in it. And then boom, you send me that story and I'm like, oh my God, here's the universe talking to us, as we always reference to. Maybe just dive deeper into what you shared on the page already.
Yeah. So the story I shared was essentially I was having a rough professional season in France. Wasn't playing as much as I wanted to, wasn't connecting with the coaches very well. And also underperforming, I would say. Like, I think there was a reason I wasn't playing as much as I'd want to as well. But so I just got like more and more like, okay, I need to focus more. I need to work hard. I need to do more reps. I need to work out harder. Like all those things just kind of kept building, and then I would get injured, and then I'd go through the rehab process and do all this stuff. And work harder to get myself back up to that level, and then something else would happen. And it kind of got to this point. I was working with a health coach who's now my business partner, Misha Harris, and we kind of got to the point where we figured out like I'm doing all the right things to be excellent in my sport,
right?
When I'm at the gym, and everything that I'm doing away from the gym, I'm trying to still be excellent in my sport. But I'm just focusing on the sport. I'm not necessarily focusing on myself. And that kind of came in the lines of like, if I was to go for a walk during the day, like it's a beautiful day, south of France, right on the beach, like awesome. Nice. If I could, I would question going for a walk during the day, even though I knew it would bring me joy and happiness and like relaxation.
Yes.
Because I was like, it might make me a little bit more tired, it might make my legs a little bit more tired tonight, and I need to improve myself tonight. And so there's all these kind of little barriers between like actually doing things that brought me joy, and because I thought that they would pull away from my performance. But we got to that point, that breaking point essentially of, okay, this stuff, me focusing on volleyball all the time isn't working. I need to allow myself to leave volleyball where it is, take care of myself, do things that I enjoy, do things that, make me happy, and not worry if they affect volleyball. And the cool thing with that was, I went for a walk when I wanted to, when it was a nice day. I read a book that was, nothing to do with like mental performance or anything like that. It was just like an enjoyable book to read. And I started kind of bring myself away from the sport, which then allowed me to go to practice with more energy, more motivation, more joy and happiness. And it's such a simple concept, but as athletes, as a high performance athlete, you're always thinking, what more can I do? What more can I do in my sport?
And I would argue this is something I'm starting to realize too. The more I talk to my friend, I might as well shout him out, Tom Legale, who's in his last year at St. FX, still playing ball. But through these conversations, this idea that athletes, like we're almost taught to like, if you're injured, fight through it. If you have aches and pains, fight through it. And a large theme that comes up during my podcast interviews or my stories with other athletes is adversity. And I truly do believe that athletes are really good at overcoming adversity, because sports is this safe, place for life that teaches you that bad things are going to happen. You're going to get scored on. You're going to lose games. You're going to have to fight and learn how to adapt. But there's also this part of that that's not talked about, especially mentally. And you just touched on it. Like it's almost like if we are feeling sad or depressed and we're not happy, like it's ingrained in us to push through that and go through it and toughen up. Like it's almost counterintuitive in a sense. And I'm starting to learn just from you is that I'm assuming you only learned this lesson later on in your career, because as you opened up with, when you were at Trinity Western, you were on top of the game. You were CIS Player of the Year. You were winning championships. You were getting all these awards. So like, it almost took you to get to the point where your performance was dwindling for everything else to crumble and crash and burn for you to kind of wake up.
Yeah, I would say partly yes. It took that really hard moment for me to then change everything, change my direction. But I was also lucky enough to I actually attribute a lot of my success before this point to my ability to focus on the off court habits, the things that you do before and after training. I was always a little bit different. Like I would show up in my first year university and start doing like this yoga warm up and this core activation stuff. And the fifth years were kind of looking at me like, what's this guy doing?
Yep.
And it was, I was always that guy who's kind of doing something different.
Okay.
So I always was on that path, but I never really committed fully to it, and more the mindset stuff. I was always on that path physically and nutritionally and from a sleep standpoint. And then it just took that like more rock bottom scenario to get my mindset aligned with it as well.
So if you were doing all these things, starting in your first year university, and I'm sure, your development as a volleyball, when did you start playing volleyball? Was it later in life or?
No, I was probably like 11, 12.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, a little like I look at myself and like my dad had a basketball in my hands ever since I was 4. So like I never played other sports. I never, whatever. So 11, 12, I mean, that seems to be right in the age, but like, why did it take you to like almost at the end of your career to recognize the importance of the 20 hours as you say?
Yeah. Again, I think like you brought before, like that adversity, like that something wasn't going the way I want it to go. I was pretty fortunate in lots of my career where I could do a lot of things, and I had awesome support and coaches that could allow me to get to the places I wanted to go. And now I was at a spot where that wasn't happening. I wasn't getting to where I wanted to go. I wasn't seeing my potential being met. And that was maybe one of the first times, at least in a long time in volleyball for me, that I felt that. So yeah, that was definitely a big part of that.
What's the culture like in volleyball? Because I've never played the sport. I've been to, I don't know, 2 junior high girls volleyball games because I had to go support the fake girlfriend that we were, when we were 13. So like what's the culture? Because I like, maybe I can help you answer this question by, the basketball culture is like very male dominant and it's, high testosterone, and it's hip hop, and it's, it's fierce competition, and I'm better than you. Like describe the culture of volleyball. And, because I feel like if I went to some of my teammates in the past and said, hey man, like I'm having some mental health issues, like some of them would kind of laugh at me and be like, yo, go get in the gym and go put up shots and go put up reps. Like, stop crying. What would the reaction be like from a culture perspective in volleyball? If like, is it open? Are you guys encouraged to talk about, your mental health, or what can you speak on that?
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a really strong defined culture in volleyball in Canada, at least. It's a big sport. It's popular, but it's not basketball. It's not soccer. It's not hockey, definitely not hockey. Like, those have like their very clear cultures because it's so massive and it's so ingrained. And volleyball has some things, but I think there's this like there's a culture of like, I call it like the more old school traditional culture. Like, no, like that stuff isn't really talked about. It's a grind culture, just like kind of what you just explained there with basketball. Like, no, go to the gym, do more, work harder. But there is, I feel like, an emerging culture I don't know if this is just volleyball, but I think this also extends to other sports of like, it's that awareness is now there, that
I
importance
agree.
around the mental, the physical, the 20 hours, that's getting pretty popular now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the newer age coaches or the coaches that adapt to this that are now creating this new kind of path for their teams and for their athletes that probably didn't exist when I was first playing, but now I'm trying to help lead this culture in volleyball too, towards this new path.
Yeah, there's definitely an emergence in my generation, your generation, like this new generation. You see it with professional athletes now speaking up about mental health, and it's becoming a part of the game, I think, in all sports. Are there any like distinct conversations you remember with teammates, maybe on bus rides or plane rides or like walking the beach, where you've brought up this whole idea of the 20 hours and how the time off the court can actually improve your time on the court? Like any examples like the ones that I brought up with me and my old roommate, Tom, like we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Are there any that stand out for you?
And are you saying during my career when I was still playing?
Even now, and I'm sure maybe you can answer it by telling us more about what you're doing with Athlete Wellness.
Athlete Wellness Academy.
Perfect. What's the focus or what's the goal for Athlete Wellness Academy?
Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, probably didn't have a ton of those conversations in my career, but now that's the only conversation I have.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we talk about. That is what we work with athletes on, work with teams on, is trying to figure out where are they? Like, where are they on their mindset? Where are they mentally? Where are they physically? Where's the recovery at? Where's their nutrition at?
Right.
And then coaching them through like, okay, where are the missing links here? You work out a lot, you practice volleyball a lot, but you don't sleep. You have a ton of stress.
Yep.
You don't take care. You have really low energy throughout the day because you're not drinking any water, like whatever it is.
Yep.
So we try to see where they're at and then identify the missing links, bridge the gap so that it makes sense to them. It's not just, they want to score more points in volleyball. Why would I want to sleep more? And we have to bridge that gap and start that conversation of how different things affect your performance.
Mm-hmm.
So this is essentially the only conversations I have these days, is all surrounding these 20 hours,
which is great.
fun.
Which is great because you need it. But like, what's your delivery method of this? Is it one-on-one coaching? Are you speaking to teams, conferences? Like, what's the process? And how are you? And what's the actual like, I'm not trying to get you to expose your things that you get people to pay for or whatever. What's the content that you're trying to teach people?
Yeah. So like our main service and product is our coaching system. It's our ability to take an athlete, identify what their goals are, and then get them to actually work on these 20 hours so that they meet those goals, whatever they are. And that's the main product. How we come across it is actually, like, I was just on a call before this to keep working on this process of, we're coming out with an app soon that's going to allow us to talk with someone, onboard them, direct them into a program that's customized to their goals, and then add in like the check-ins of like the little reminders, the little notifications throughout the weeks, throughout the months, so that they're staying on top of these other things.
Yep.
And creating that tracking process. Now, what we have done in the past, what has also worked super well, is like, one-on-one coaching with athletes, working with teams as kind of a high performance consultant. That's my role with Trinity Western University men's volleyball team right now for the past 3 years, is more that role of working with the full group, the coach, the IST staff, all the players, and working on, okay, what are you guys doing well right now? Awesome. What aren't you guys doing well? Okay, let's try and bridge that gap, and let's start doing some of these things better. If this is your goal, we need to make sure there's no weak links in the chain.
And it's almost like reverse engineering. Like, where do you want to be? Okay, now let's look at the actions that you're currently doing and ask yourself why you're not there. Something exactly. that I've adopted, like 2 days ago, was, you know, it's weird. The way my mind works is like, for one, I'm super interested in psychology. I think it's a big reason why I enjoy, like, I genuinely get excited to have conversations with people I've never met before, because it lets me almost like test my way of thinking by putting it up against theirs and see what we align on, what we don't align on. So I do feel like I'm a pretty conscious person, and I understand, you know, if you do have a goal, then I know the steps to get there. But I'm also finding that I'm really good at justifying the reasons why I'm not achieving my goals. And so for the past 2 weeks, I felt like I was in a funk. And you know, I went out and bought a journal, and, you know, I've been journaling on and off for a number of years now, but never consistently. I'm a big podcast guy, so I'll go out for walks, and I've just started listening to Jordan B Peterson a ton, who's the clinical psychologist. He's a professor at U of T down the road. You know, I love his conversations that he has with debates and why people actually think he's Satan. Meanwhile, he's just like genuinely like, no, like from a physiological and neurological, like, anyway, he's super, super logical. And one of the things that he says is like, or that I've adopted 2 days ago, is like, create a schedule for yourself that exhibits like the perfect day in your mind. Like, ask yourself, what would all of the things that you want to get accomplished in a day, and go ahead and like literally write down that schedule, 9 a.m. till 9:30, and so for the past 2 weeks, I've been doing the complete opposite. And I realized why I'm feeling in the dumps, because all I'm doing is scrolling TikTok and getting those dopamine, like the phone and social media is just like quick fix. It's so easy to get a quick fix, but then it's like you're exhausting your dopamine stores for the day. And therefore anything else, any other activity that you do for the day isn't going to be as exciting if you wake up and boom, you're already you're getting your dopamine rush. So what are you out there searching for? Anyway, so I did go ahead and write down my schedule, and boom, it's weird. You know, I start my day with a journal while I have coffee, and I don't turn on my phone, and then I get a workout in. So I get the hard struggle out of the way. And then I get all my, you know, my work done. And then I leave my fun work, like my UndressTheJersey stuff, for the end of the day. But you know, I sat down this morning. I'm like, wow, isn't it weird? Like, I already feel 10 times better. And I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? It's because we're so good at justifying our actions, and, oh, it's fine, I'll just do it tomorrow. Does any of that I just kind of blurbed out there relate to what you try to teach athletes or people in your athletic wellness academy?
Yeah. So what you just kind of described there is one way of setting up your environment for success. Like, your tool there was scheduling, and really letting yourself plan out your day and actually create that ideal day, and then schedule it. So you follow that schedule.
Discipline. Yeah.
So you set up your environment to allow yourself to do that. So you pushed your work back a bit. You moved your workout to the morning, like whatever your environment was before, you changed a little bit.
Yep.
So that's a big part of habit change, and of what we do with athletes and teams is we work with them to set up their external environment, but also their internal environment, so that they can create change.
Yes.
It's there's a good story about a hospital tried to get their employees to drink more water. So the first thing they tried was they put up posters, the importance of water, importance of hydration, and they put those all around like high touch areas.
Okay.
That didn't change the results. Second thing they did is they put a water cooler in each of these areas where they were kind of gathering lots.
Mm-hmm.
And then that changed the results. So they just changed the environment, the physical environment.
Gotcha.
And that allowed habit change to happen easily.
Which
and,
just to jump in, something also that Jordan Peterson says a lot too is like, before you try to change the world and get your big idea out there, like try cleaning your room, like, or like, is your apartment clean? If that's not clean, if you can't clean your own environment, how are you going to clean the other, like someone else's environment? So start there, like, change your environment.
Yeah. And it can be simple, like physical environment, like you have to change, like the water cooler, you have to write your schedule out, you have to make sure those things are there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also can be your internal environment as well. Like you have to get your mindset in the right place to allow change to occur. And lots of times those two things kind of go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
If you change the physical, it will help change the internal as well. But I'd see that as a big part of the process that we try to do at Athlete Wellness Academy. So
you say, it's important to change your internal environment, and people hear this all the time, the good old cliche, like, you got to think positive thoughts and, have a positive outlook. But like, anyone listening hears you say that and be like, okay, I've heard that a million times. Like, what's a way you remember actively, like what moment in your life, whether it was as an athlete or not? Like, I know last week we had to reschedule this podcast because your wife is pregnant. Like, congrats. Like, that's incredible. That's exciting. Thanks. So like, maybe it's now when you're preparing to become a dad, like, take your cliche of saying, oh, change your internal, and describe how you've done that.
Yeah. So could I actually pose a question on you? Is if you wanted to work on your mindset, what would you do?
Probably do more things that are difficult, and difficult could mean doing the things that I don't want to do. I remember having a conversation on here with Omar Abdallah, who played football for SMU. And one of the things was like, Omar, I wake up every morning and I know I should make my bed, but like, what difference is this going to make? Like, I don't, like, it takes 5 seconds. I'll do it later. But ever since I've like consistently made myself make my bed, that's something that I feel like is in the right direction in doing just that. So that, do more things that I don't want to do. Homework, clean your apartment, clean your toilet, like those kind of things.
Okay. So like you're challenging yourself a little bit in different ways,
mm-hmm.
and you have a pretty broad perspective there, which is awesome. A lot of people, if we were to say, how do you want to, or can you change your mindset? They go immediately like, okay, I can meditate more. I could journal some more.
Sure.
I could discuss things like big topics more with people. Like
mm-hmm.
those types of things are all lots of good tools. What I believe in, what we do with Athlete Wellness Academy is, okay, if you want to change your mindset, we have to have a focus on the mindset for sure. We might want to use meditation. We might want to use some of these tools, but your mind has to be rested to allow yourself to have the energy to do so. So sleep and recovery comes in there. You have to have the energy throughout the day to do this self work. So hydration, nutrition comes in there. If you have a lot of stress, or if you have tension, that tension is usually held in your body somewhere. So also alleviating the physical things that might be holding you back from working on the mental or the mindset might be another thing. So it's how I look at it is, if I want to work on my mindset, I'm going to make sure that everything is set up in all these areas so that I can have the space, the energy, the time,
mm-hmm.
so that I can go into a little journaling session and just devote my time to that and not have other distractions, other things pulling me away.
I would also argue that you need to like be willing to change your mindset. Like you also have to have this moment of being like, okay, I want to change my mindset. Have you had any experience with, maybe it's, and I don't know how your delivery methods are. And you said you're working with Trinity Western, the volleyball team, but like, maybe if you're talking to a bigger group like the volleyball team, there's obviously going to be some athletes that aren't going to invest in the time to do this and are willing. So like, is that almost like a waste of your own energy? Or how do you stress the importance and the benefit or value that can come from doing exercises like this?
Yeah. So the biggest thing, if you want to create a change, before changing the environment, all that kind of stuff, is identifying why, and essentially playing the why game until you get to the root of what do you actually want here. I want to change my mindset, sure, but why do you want to change that? Well, I want to perform under pressure better. Okay, why do you want to change? Why do you want to perform under pressure better? And you keep going down the layers of the why game. And once you get to that purpose, you can do this with a full team. They can be writing things down. They can be thinking about it in their head. Once they get to their clear purpose, their clear route, then they have that motivation. Then they're like, okay, now is the art of the coach of connecting their purpose to, okay, well, how is journaling, or how is sleeping, or how is nutrition or movement going to affect that purpose? And as long as you can create that clear connection, once they have that why, and then bridging the gap, then you have an athlete who is really engaged, enthused, and is ready to take that step, ready to make that change that they might not have done before.
So take us back to France, the south of France. You're walking. What was your process of figuring out your why and your purpose? Take us, like, if you can, as best as you can, take us back there.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in France, my why became my why became outside the sport, essentially.
Yeah.
I wanted
because
to do
you weren't
things.
happy. You weren't happy outside your sports. You're like, okay, I need to fix that.
Exactly. So my why used to be because I wanted to be the best in volleyball. I wanted to go to Olympics. I wanted to whatever. I wanted to do all these awesome things. And then I slowly started pulling away from that throughout my professional career. And my why started to change, but I never really made that connection that it was changing. So I was still fighting to feel like that, but I wasn't doing the things, and I wasn't in the mind space to actually get there. So I had to reevaluate what my why was, what my purpose was. And then that directed me down this new path of, well, I want to be happy right now is the first thing.
Sure.
I want to have more joy in my life. I don't want to be as stressed. I want to enjoy my relationship with my wife more. I want, all these other things became more important.
I'm so not surprised to hear that, because in almost all of the conversations that I've had with professional athletes, they all experience the same thing. It's like this sport that they grew up and they spent their entire lives playing, and that they love to death. Love. As soon as they start playing for a contract and money, that love, that internal, genuine, natural love starts to dwindle. And I think every professional athlete that I can think of, or that I know, has a moment like you did in France. Why do you, like, what was the biggest difference that you noticed after you jumped from university to now being like, okay, I'm no longer playing in school. I'm now like, this is for food on my table?
Yeah. You know what? I would say it even started in university, that slow, gradual switch. That was probably when it began, and then professional changed it more. But yeah, it's a different game when you're playing to win, but you're also playing to get a better contract the next year.
Yeah.
In university, you're playing to win and to represent your school. In professional, in a lot of sports, it's a little bit different. Like, you have that different kind of stress on each performance, on each game. And it was the ability to connect with, like, did I actually want to go to Olympics? Did I actually want to play national team? Or is that just something that I thought others expected from me? And then once I realized that was probably just an expectation that I put on myself from others.
True.
Then I realized, okay, I don't actually want that. And I wanted to do this pass. I wanted to move this other way.
Yeah,
And
I
that was a
mean,
kind of the aha moment.
that'll eat you alive, and I'm starting to experience a little bit about that too. I was on a call with Chris Aki, who I just he plays for the Montreal Alouettes in the CFL. He shared a story for my Black History Month content series, and he, through that conversation, I posed him a question of like, how do you deal with, or how do you feel when someone looks at you and says you can't do something just because of the color of your skin? And he was like, bro, why do I care about what they have to say about me? Like, they're not a decision maker in my life. They're not paying my bills. So like, why even pay attention to their thoughts? And it's, but it's, I think it's something that's innately within us as human beings, is like, we want people to like us. We want, we set these certain, we think about other people's expectations for ourselves. And by doing that, we can like forget to like think about what we want. And so that plays into the whole like pillar of your figuring out your purpose, figuring out your why. And I guess that could be one of the bridges between why some professional athletes start to lose the love for that game, because when you first pick up the sport, you're like, I love this. This is fun for me. And then now as a professional athlete, you're like, oh, I need to impress that person so I can get a bigger paycheck and a bigger contract and play in a bigger league and whatever. So, share just, as we're wrapping up here, share like something, what's your biggest turmoil or adversity within the world of sports? Because there's a ton that I'm sure we all have internal, personal, I don't even want to phrase it as like your demons or anything, but like, what's something that's keeping you up at night within the world of sports?
Yeah.
Or athletes, or, athlete wellness academy, like anything.
Yeah. Something that's keeping me up at night would be, I really believe there's this new pathway, this new culture that is coming in, and it's getting rid of the idea that you have to grind all the time. You have to work your absolute hardest, nonstop, no breaks, get past the pain, get past the illness. And that's how you succeed. I think I'm just so excited with this new culture coming in that's promoting more of this wellness concept, and more of this concept of like taking care of the whole, so that we can achieve those things. But we don't just achieve them this week or this year. We achieve them for the rest of our career. It's a sustainable approach. And I'm just so excited about that, and that whole process coming in.
What do you think is the biggest driver of that? Why is this change coming now?
Yeah, I think a lot of it stems down from professional, like a lot of what we do with youth athletes and college athletes is what professional teams do with their athletes. So in like the strength and conditioning world, for professional teams, it's coming away from that grind culture right now. It's getting more into the specifics, but also into the recovery. Like their strength coach's job is to make sure that their athletes are performing at a high level consistently throughout the whole season.
It's true.
And it's not to make them jump higher in the season necessarily. It's to make sure that they can last that full season and play the important games when they matter.
Yeah, that's tough.
And that whole realization is where we're kind of getting to, and what's kind of driving this.
So my coach at St. FX, was Steve Konchalski, who's finishing his 44th year. I think he's retiring this year. So he's older. Like I don't know how old he is, but he's like the all-time winningest coach in Canada, basketball legend. And so I encountered this when I was at X, is our strength and conditioning coach had adopted the philosophy that you just mentioned, is like, okay, like my job isn't to increase your strength and your jumping ability and make you go out tomorrow night and dunk on somebody. It's to like prepare you for game day so you can perform as optimal as possible. But Coach K comes from this like old school, like oh, we're going to get in the weight room 3 times a week, even though we have 3 games this week. And we're like, coach, like our legs are bust. Like he's the definition of like ultimate competitor, outwork your competition, be the best, grind. I can't help to think that this new wave is coming because people like myself, like you, are now the new generation of coaches who understand this or who have gone through our sporting careers with this mentality on ourselves. So that's probably a reason too. Something that's been on my mind lately too is, or I've been listening to in these podcasts, is the whole idea of, the parenting culture, and where every kid gets a participation trophy, and we're not keeping score because we don't want to hurt your feelings. What do you, I mean, you're going to be a father here soon too. Like, are you going to let your kid beat you every once in a while? Like, where's your mentality on that?
Now we're getting into parenting, hey?
I know, this is ethical
well,
too, ethics and all that.
Well, with my parenting structure, I have no idea.
Right.
I am going to take it as it comes and try my best to adapt and not have these preconceptions or these things that like, I'm going to do this, because I know that when that happens in a scenario that I know nothing about, that can be pretty stressful and daunting.
Of course.
So I'm going to see like, okay, like how's this even work? And then try to start making my path and designing my own philosophies from that point. But yeah, I that's something I've more recently thought of, obviously with the baby coming sooner.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't answer that one too well. I think that's
it's true. But like, where's your philosophy on the whole idea of like, it's important to be a little stressed out. It's important to have some adversity, because if you have no responsibility at all, then you're just going to be wandering aimlessly.
totally.
Is that something that's within your criteria or content that you share with athletes?
100%. Yeah. Like stress isn't bad. There's eustress and there's distress. There's 2 different forms of stress. And I also believe stress or perception. Something that I believe is stressful, you might not.
100%. 100%.
So what we do with athletes is we have this diagram that we like to show them. It's essentially their stress throughout the season, and stress coming from load, coming from more games, coming from exam time, whatever it is. And we're not taking away stress with what we do. Right. We're just essentially getting them to start at a lower level so that they can handle more stress without going over the barrier, like over their threshold.
Exactly.
Because the threshold, you can go over it every now and then, but if you stay up there, if that's where you exist, that's where problems exist.
And you start to crumble.
Burnout, injury, crumbling, emotional fatigue, whatever it is, that's where that exists. So we don't take away stress, but we lower their initial stress to allow them to handle more.
Yes.
We want them to have stress. You need to have stress.
And it's important to like be consciously aware of where your thresholds are, and because if you don't know where they are, then you could cross over and not know why you're feeling all these negative feelings. So I don't know. And Nick, I love this stuff. I could talk for 3 hours about this stuff and pick your brain, because I can tell, like, obviously with you having a business centered around this, you're very passionate about it too. Is there anything that you wanted to leave, the viewers, or something that we didn't bring up that you want to, or just any closing remarks?
Yeah, I think I know a lot of athletes tune into your stuff, and I think just as an athlete, continually connecting back to your purpose. And once you connect to, so like that why underneath the why, the why game, that whole idea, we often go through a full season or a couple seasons and we won't connect back to that. And we need to continually connect back to that just to make sure, am I still going the right direction, or am I being pulled away into some other area? And that's okay too. It's okay to be pulled away. But if you are going the right direction, then awesome. Keep going that path. But I just really think that we get lost in the grinding and we get lost in the hard work, which is important, super important, but just come back, make sure that that purpose is aligning with it, and then keep going, and make sure it's aligning, then keep going, make sure it's aligning. Oh, it's not? Okay, why is it not? And then start figuring
exactly.
that out.
Which is why I think such a valuable exercise is keeping a journal, because if you write down the date and time, how you're feeling, and the actions that you're doing, then when you start to break off from those happy feelings, or, you know, the good places, you can look back and be like, okay, I remember feeling great during this month, and you can literally look at what your behaviors and your routine and your habit. Reflection is just so important. I love it. Nick, this was super valuable.
Thank you.
Glad you could come on. Thank you so much. Let's stay in touch. I want to learn more about Athlete Wellness Academy, and you know where to find me too. So I'll be sure to link all your stuff, your socials, your everything. Make sure people can check you out. So
sounds good.
Good luck in the future, Nick. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
See ya.
Bye. Hey everyone, it's Nick Del Bianco here. I'm a retired volleyball athlete, and you were just watching Undress the Jersey.